امتدادا لهذا الحديث حول الذكاء الاصطناعي سنستعرض أو سنستمع إلى هذا العرض السريع من السيد جريجوري لابلانك البروفيسور في جامعة كاليفورنيا بيركلي عن ابتكارات التقنية في تحسين تجربة المتدرب.
Thank you. Let's see the slides. Slides. Oops. Let me go back to the beginning here. Okay, I want to start off with a question. How much physics does Cristiano Ronaldo know? How much mechanical engineering and physics did Sullenberger know? And how much coding did Steve Jobs know? These were extraordinarily effective people, and yet they didn't have what we might think of as traditional university knowledge that one might think is necessary for what they did. So in the world of education, every single philosophy of teaching and learning has to have something to say about both logos and techne, the two Greek words. Logos means what you know, and techne means what can you do. And when we look at 20th century education, right, the logos was basic stuff like language and math and science, but really what we were teaching people how to do was how to sit still, how to obey, how to listen, how to be disciplined, and how to be focused. And so the structure of the learning was designed to create the kind of people who could work in factories, to create the kind of people who could work in factories with their minds and not just with their bodies, to create the kind of people who could serve in an army, right, in a structured, disciplined way. And here we are in the 21st century, and we all know that software is taking over the world, right? As Mark Andreessen once said, software is eating the world. And so if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you that software engineer is the factory job of the future. I would have told you that the bulk of the population would be working in software engineering, in computer science, in data science. And so we altered our educational system so that we could teach people how to code, but we would teach them using the same methods that we were using before. And so we emphasized STEM, right? All of our universities shifted away from the humanities, shifted away from the soft skills, shifted into the sciences. And so if we look at the number of computer science graduates in the United States and Canada, it's on the rise. If you look at UC Berkeley, where I teach, you see this dramatic increase. It is now the #1 major in our university. If you look at the boot camps, there are university boot camps, all designed to create software engineers and coders. Even in high school in the United States, the majority of high schools offer classes in coding and computer science. And so the question is this the right direction? Are we doing the right thing? Now that we have AI, right? Could AI render all of those skills obsolete? And we've seen how AI has begun to replicate almost every single human cognitive capability. And if you look over on the far right, you see that code generation is rapidly approaching that of human capabilities. When we look at standardized tests, right, the tests that are used to get our children into universities, artificial intelligence, generative AI, can perform at a level that is comparable to human students. This is a study that looked at law school students and compared them to generative AI taking law school exams. And generative AI did better consistently than human did when it came to standardized tests. But we're not just using Gen AI as interns. Gen AI is approaching a level of intelligence that surpasses human experts in a lot of domains. The speed with which Gen AI is developing exceeds the pace of almost any technological change that's happened before in human history, and I think the previous panel mentioned this. So this is basically what is called Google Proof Q&A, and what we see is that each generation gets consistently better and better and it is doing better than humans in psychology tests, biology tests, even wine tasting tests, if you can imagine, right? It's really, really phenomenal. And I think that the biggest application here of generative AI is not text to text, is not text to image, is not text to video, but text to code. And so what we're seeing are the emergence of these tools that are questioning whether or not we need all of these software engineers. So you can just ask ChatGPT to write the code, which would have taken you hours and now will take you seconds. Okay, I'll skip over these. But the point here is that the languages that are used to program computers are getting increasingly abstract. It used to be that the developer needed to understand machine language, and then we got additional layers of abstraction. We got Fortran, we got up to Python, and now the coding language of the future is natural language. You can use English to ask the computer to write its own code. So, with artificial intelligence becoming more and more intelligent, the question is, what's the role of the human? What can human intelligence do? And I think most of us would say humor, soft skills, empathy. There's no way that AI can do that. And yet, when we look at things like humor, ChatGPT is getting pretty good. When we look at soft skills, it's beating human doctors. Even when we look at empathy, when you interact with one of these agents, they are rated as more empathetic than humans in the medical context. So, what's left for us? And I think we need to rethink the way in which we interact with these types of machines. Ultimately, if they can do better than us at almost everything, we need to think about the comparative advantage that we have and how can we combine human and artificial intelligence. The manager of today is going to be managing both humans and these agents. And so this is the way we need to develop human capabilities, the capacity to manage both human and artificial intelligence. There's been some studies that have shown that when you give humans access to artificial intelligence, the combination of the two results in performance that is better than you could get with either one. This is a test of creativity. With access, you do better on creativity. So ultimately, all of our employees are going to be either cyborgs or centaurs. The difference here is that the centaur, there's a clear division between the human and the artificial, whereas with a cyborg, you have an integration of the human and the artificial. And so what's left for us in the way of teaching? What can we teach? How can we create the employee of the future? We need to focus on creativity. A lot of what the previous panel was talking about. We need to focus on culture. And these are things that require a different type of teaching. You cannot simply recycle the teaching methods of the past. How do we create an innovation mindset? Well, we're going to need new tools. Right? We've talked about AR and VR. Talk about case studies. Talk about experimentation. Talk about critical reasoning faculties. Strategic thinking. And ultimately, there is an approach to education that has been around for a long time, which existed primarily in the K-12, but we can learn a lot from that with respect to university and professional education. So what do all of these people have in common? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey and Larry, Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, all of them went to a Montessori school, which has a very different approach to education, which is student-centered, project-based, curiosity encouraging, and innovation thinking developing. This is the way we need to approach professional education. There's a lot to be learned from these different philosophies of education, and making sure that you match the style of education and the structure of education with the type of human being that you're trying to create. This is the role of the educator in the 21st century. And so, as Albert Einstein said, once you stop learning, you start dying. Creating a culture of continuous learning, that's the goal of the modern educator. And I've been very impressed by the HR people and the senior leaders of the enterprises that I've met here in Saudi during this visit and my last visit, because I think this idea has been embraced by the senior leadership. So thank you so much. Appreciate the visit. Thank you to the Financial Academy, and look forward to the rest of my stay.